Hi, mystery readers. I'm Alexandra Amor. This is It's a Mystery Podcast, and I'm here today with JC Gatlin. Hi, JC.
Hello.
How are you
How's it
today?
going? I'm pretty good. Hanging in there. I'm glad to see you the week.
Yes, yeah, me too. So let me give our listeners a little bit of information about you. JC Gatlin lives in Tampa, Florida. In addition to regular fishing trips, he wrote a monthly column for New Tampa Style magazine and then began penning several mystery suspense stories. He also maintains a blog about the art of spinning a nail-biting, edge-of-your-seat mystery yarn. Coming from a large family with 5 brothers, JC grew up in Grapevine, a small Texas town just outside of Dallas. He moved to Tampa in 1999, and most of his stories feature the rich landscape of Texas and Florida as a background. So let's begin actually, I have a question that's completely unrelated to mystery novels.
Go for it.
Can you tell me a little bit about Hakeem the Lion?
Oh, Hakeem, he was so cool. Interesting story, because we got him in high school. We rescued him from a farm who raises livestock and then allowed people to go, pay to hunt them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we rescued the lion cub.
Wow.
He nursed off of with a litter of Australian shepherds and grew up with us, and he'd go running with the horses, and he was a great animal.
Wow, that's amazing. And then eventually he went to live at a different location?
Yeah, we took him to Boyd, Texas. There was a large cat sanctuary there
Right.
because we were going off to college, and we weren't going to be there to take care of him, and he was so protective that my best friend's father was just worried something was going to happen, especially if we weren't there.
Yeah.
And, we took him there. He had a huge cage with a swimming pool in it.
Nice.
And, it was really nice. We'd go visit him, and he knew the sound of my truck. He couldn't roar because he grew up with dogs, so he barked. And he would start growling, barking, whatever, as soon as when we pulled up into the parking lot.
Really? Wow. And how old did he live to be?
8, about 8 years old, he died young.
Okay.
And, he died really young, but he was great. He was a lot of fun.
Yeah, what an amazing experience for boys to have growing up in Texas.
It's going to be in one of my books at some point. I don't know how yet, but it will. It will at some point.
Oh, yeah, you have to use that for sure. So let's talk about your 3 books, and we'll start with maybe The Designated Survivor, which is free,
Sure.
we should say, on all the platforms. So the thing that grabbed my attention about that is Tess, the main character, is on the run from an inmate work farm. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's got herself into a bit of a pickle, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a bit about her.
She's basically a single mother. She's been separated from her daughter, and the whole book is about her trying to get reunited with her daughter. And so she escapes. She hitchhikes, gets picked up, and that's her at the beginning of the story. But she thinks that the guy who picked her up has murdered his wife, and the wife's body is in the trunk. And so the whole trip, and I call it a road trip mystery, goes from all the way to Sarasota, where she is reunited with her daughter.
Right, okay. And so the mystery is, I guess, her trying to unravel whether or not this fellow has, in fact, killed his wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, great.
She figures it out at the end.
Cool. And I liked the tagline or a part of the description I saw somewhere that said Tess isn't about to let a little murder stand between her and her daughter.
And what mother would?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
She moved heaven and earth to get to her daughter.
Nice. And then your second book, Prey of Desire, and I read that you actually wrote that in college and then revisited it.
I did. That is a book I've been working on for years and years and years. And I wrote a short story in college, and then a few years after that, I dusted it off and tried to create a novel out of it, and came back to it, put it down, came back to it, put it down, and but it's based. The main character is based on the girl that lived across from me when I was in college, And then another girl Mallory is based on an actual person in a lot of my college classes. And
Okay.
they were friends, and I don't know if either one of them, I have no idea where they are today, and I don't know if they would even recognize themselves, because the names are different, of course, and their appearances are very different. But I feel like I nailed the personalities.
So what was it about their personalities that made you want to put them in a novel?
Kimberly went back and forth with her boyfriend. And it was just always a drama. And they were breaking up and getting back together and breaking up. And everybody knew they should just go their separate ways. But for whatever reason, they didn't. And Mallory, uh, that girl was a piece of work. She was so self absorbed, but she loved her best friend very deeply. And she had a big crush on Jose Canseco. And so that worked into the book a little bit. And she made money, which I didn't put this part in the book, but this girl would make money by rear-ending expensive vehicles, and she'd make insurance money, and she made a lot of money somehow from that. But she was crazy, and I kept thinking, I wonder if I could get that in there in some way, but I would have shoehorned that bit in there and just didn't fit.
Yes, yeah. Um, well, and I mean the sort of more crazier, I guess is the best way to say it, a person is or a character kind of makes them more interesting. In life, they might be a pain in the ass, but in
Mm-hmm.
books, they're fun to read about.
And you know what? She's polarizing. Mallory is very
Yeah.
polarizing.
Okay. Yeah.
People love her or hate her, but I haven't seen anyone be just, whatever.
Indifferent to her.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah. And so part of the deal with Prey of Desire is that Kimberly is getting a series of love notes. Is that right? And she thinks they're from an ex-fiance.
Yeah, because they keep breaking up, and so she thinks, well, he's just trying to get back together with me. But it turns out, and he dies at the beginning of the book, so I'm not spoiling anything. So the reader knows immediately that's not from him.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. And the other thing I noticed in a description somewhere was that the notes have a bit of intimacy with them. Like they have details, I guess, about Kimberly's life, and so whoever's sending them is kind of in her inner circle. Is that right?
It is. It's in her inner circle. It's someone she knows, and they're based on. They don't really go so much into her life as much as their poems and things, and some of them are things that they'd studied in class, and
Mm.
so she starts to realize, oh, it's someone in class, that's got that's stalking me.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Oh, it gives me the shivers just thinking about that, knowing that somebody around you is doing that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. And then the third book, The Cypress Trap.
The Cypress Trap is an anomaly for me.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not a mystery in the sense like the other two books have a dead body and you don't know who killed the person. This one's a little bit more of a thriller in that it's about a husband and wife who are they're trying to repair their marriage. They go on a fishing trip together, and the husband reveals that he's stolen something, and now the people who own it want it back, and so they have to get out of the woods alive. It's one of those stories. And
Oh, okay.
it was the oddest thing. I wrote it in. I mean, I just sat down and wrote it. I mean, it just came out, and I had it to. I started it and had it to the editor within 2 months, and then the editor sent it back to me with some changes, and so I fixed that. And I mean, it came out so quickly. Where Prey of Desire I've been working on for 15 years,
Yeah.
and The Designated Survivor probably had 2 years in it, and it's a relatively short story.
Oh, wow. Okay. So a very different writing experience between that one and the other two.
Exactly.
And it was the third one you wrote, I guess. Yes.
It is the third one. I've got a book I've been working on, and I keep getting stuck, and so I put it down, and then I wrote the Cypress Trap in that break. When that was published, I came back to Hangman's, the book I've been working on for going on 3 years, and then I've taken a break on Hangman again, and 21 Dares is the book that's coming out at the end of summer. And I wrote that one probably about 3 or 4 months.
Okay. And
Hmm.
so we're recording this in April 2016. I think we'll probably broadcast in May. And
Hmm.
so tell us more about that book then that's coming out at the end of the summer.
21 Dares is another murder mystery. And this one is about a girl turning 21, and her college friends have a birthday party for her, and there's going to be 21 dares in the party, and that's something very common for 21-year-old birthday parties. And so along the way, they get wrapped up in a murder investigation, and the whole thing kind of turns on its head. And of course, the lead character realizes that this whole thing is connected to her past, and her father's involved, and so they unravel the mystery and who murdered, and hopefully it's a surprise.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so do you ever imagine that you would write in a series? So these four books are standalones.
They are standalones, and I get that question quite a bit, and I do have a series idea, uh, but my brain just doesn't seem to think that way. I come up with the murder mystery, and and then they solve it, and I move on to the new group of characters. And so I don't know. I don't know if I ever will write a series. I hope I can at some point because it seems to be that that's pretty popular.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I guess readers do like to follow characters from one book to another. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I think of writers that I love who write standalone mysteries,
Hmm.
and what I get attached to is the type of story that the person is telling.
And
So,
I hope that that's the same for me because my stories are going to be very similar.
right, yes. Yeah, your voice is going to be there each time, and the way you plot things and that sort of thing. Um, and so you said you've got or I read in your introduction, you've got a website about with some advice about how to write a really tightly paced,
It
nail
is.
biting
As I
book.
learn things, I have blogged about it, and so my website, of course, is about my books. My blog um, has really been more about is more from other murder mystery writers because as I've learned, I've shared, and it may as I really start getting the hang of marketing, I may switch gears on that and may become more of a book marketing blog. So
Right. Yeah.
never know. Hmm.
And and so you must read those sorts of books as well, the sort of tightly paced.
All my life, I have. Encyclopedia Brown is what I grew up on. I
Yeah.
loved Encyclopedia Brown. When I was in high school, I loved Remington Steele, and that was a mystery every week.
Okay, yeah.
And of course, that was a TV show.
Yeah.
So, and I love Dean Koontz. Dean Koontz is probably and Mary Higgins Clark. Those are two of my favorite authors. I read everything that they have, and I almost I almost always enjoy Mary Higgins Clark's books. Dean Koontz is hit and miss, but he's got some excellent books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And does he write in the same way as sort of a standalone story?
A lot of him are a lot of his are, but then he has Odd Thomas, which is a series,
Okay.
and he gets a little more supernatural than I do. I can see myself touching on supernatural, but it wouldn't be a supernatural story.
Right.
So the Cypress Trap has a little bit of a supernatural um, edge, maybe, and it's almost left up to the reader's interpretation on what's going on because it could be all just nonsense, or maybe there is something there.
Oh, interesting. Wow. Okay. And let's talk about setting a little bit too, because we mentioned in the introduction you like to set the books sort of where you're from, Texas and Florida. And then I
Right.
think the Cypress track they go to Georgia?
I did Georgia because
Yeah.
that's where I go fishing quite a bit is in Georgia, so that's what
Okay.
kind of gave me the idea there. And I wanted to break it up a little bit because my next two books will be in Tampa,
Okay.
and so I wanted to. They start in Florida, but then they head out to Georgia.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, I tend to write books that are set in Canada and here in British Columbia. And it's one of my favorite things is to bring the setting into the story and kind of make it another character in the book.
Hmm.
Does that appeal to you as well?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Florida's just got so much character too, as I'm sure Canada does as well. But Florida's got. I mean, Florida's unique in the United States, very much so.
Yeah, with the Everglades, I don't know if that's come into your stories at all or
No, I'm not quite that far south. It might at some point, but the swamps do, but not quite the Everglades swamps.
Yeah.
And Tampa does too. Tampa's a big town. It feels a little bit small though. It's one of those coming from Dallas. You just never ran into anybody. In Tampa, I run into people all the time that I know.
Oh, okay.
And so Tampa's got a good feel to it. I love St. Augustine as well. And
Which is close to you?
yeah, it's probably about 4 hours north, and but it's the oldest city uh, the Americas. St. Augustine is.
Really?
Yeah, and it was one of the very first establishments, and it's got a lot of history, and that's a very cool town as well.
Oh, okay. So founded by the Spanish, I guess.
You know what? I need to research that.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Once and I'm taking the tour, so I should know that. And but I think once I actually have a book set in St. Augustine, I'll know everything there is about it.
Right, yeah. And do you like doing research? Is that something you enjoy?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I do. I do. In the research in my books, won't be like in a thriller where you're researching things with the CIA and stuff like that. And this is probably the reason that I don't have a series, is because all of my characters are amateur. They're amateur sleuths, and it's hard to take a person who's an amateur sleuth and then put them back into a whole nother murder investigation.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And do you ever, so I guess your research would just sort of be little things, not so much big events or whatever.
Yeah, it's usually character driven. So the character is interested in something,
Yeah.
and, and so I'll research that.
Okay, yeah. And do you ever run into that problem? I know a lot of writers do, of sort of disappearing down the research rabbit hole.
I don't think I do because I outline so heavily.
Oh, okay.
I outline, and I will spend more time on the outline than I do on the book in writing it. Because
Wow.
I everything, and then so once I start, I know this character is going to do this, and I'll research that. I don't get too deep because I know where I need to go with the book.
Okay, yeah. So you know what you need to know,
Hmm.
and you don't need to know more than that, sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. And do you have a regular writing practice? Like, do you just try to spend time on it every day, or?
I do spend time almost every day because I'm passionate about writing. But I'll tell you the thing that I really am good at is getting out of the office and going to the mall or to a restaurant and taking my laptop and working there. And I will pound out a chapter where at home in my office I'll get distracted with a TV or oh, here's a magic 8 ball for a while.
Yeah.
So and I think getting out into a restaurant, and I love to sit at the mall, go to the food court, sit and write, and I think it's just because there's people moving around, and I think that energy, I start feeding off that energy. And,
Yes.
hmm.
Yeah. I've heard other writers say they like to write in coffee shops.
Hmm.
Um, do you I know some put headphones on though, just so they're not sort of distracted by the voices, but do you do that?
No, I enjoy the voices. I
Okay.
like to listen to what people are talking about. And
Really? Wow. Yeah, I would find that I wouldn't get a thing done.
and I'll zone too. I mean, once I get in the zone, it doesn't matter what's going on around me. I've got my blinders on, and I'm focused.
Typing away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today, JC.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate it.
and so why don't you let everybody know where they can find your books?
My website is jcgatlin.com, and I have a whole page there on each book, and it actually links you back to Amazon. And so all my books are available on Amazon. The Designated Survivor is free on my website. If you don't want to buy it on Amazon, you can download it on my website.
Cool.
And uh, and then Prey Desire is out. It's on Nook and a lot of different sites in addition to Amazon.
To Amazon. Okay.
Amazon seems like where everybody finds me.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being with me here today. It's been great, and and shoot me an email when the new book comes out, and I'll let everybody know.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.